Welcome back to the weekly news roundup. This is the privacy edition. These are recorded live Fridays, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you would like to catch the show live, let me get a little bit more this way. Like, I feel like I'm way over further than I usually am to get underneath Big Brother. But anyway, we'll see what happens. Well, first up, Texas is suing Meta over Facebook facial recognition. This has to do with the collection of and auto tagging of faces. So when someone comes in and is like, hey, take a picture, a group photo, and then, everyone has that one friend or relative that puts everything on Facebook, and you're like, don't put me on Facebook. Like, puts you on Facebook, and Facebook's little things, woo, this is blah, this is Bob, that is an AI, and many states have laws against this. So Meta had to pay $650 million in an Illinois settlement last year, and now Texas is going into the pot. And so if all these states with all of these laws, this is the KUBI, which requires informed consent for doing any facial geometry measurements, including the types of things that you might see inside of auto tagging photos. And so we're actually seeing more and more states jump onto this. Chances are, based on the success that Illinois had, I think Texas will probably win in this case as well. So they'll be paying it out. And of course, with all these companies, all these companies are being very cautious, like, we're going to sit back and be cautious about it. Not Clearview AI. Clearview AI is going, YOLO! And they're like, we want to literally aim to put every single human in our facial recognition database. So suck it, you people. And so at what point in time is it going to take for more people to shut them down? Of course, pretty much everybody in the EU has told Clearview, yeah, you got to shut down. I am, as much as I'm not a huge fan of the EU going in about really getting in there and kind of forcing everybody into utilizing, basically using big tech as their money pot. I am perfectly okay if every single EU company comes down simultaneously and issues $1 billion fine to Clearview and then throws everybody into debtor's prison that's involved, because this is talking about getting a cat out of a bag that's never going back in there. Okay. What Clearview AI is doing is evil. It is wrong. It is immoral. It is unethical. Then they're sitting here, we have our First Amendment right. Well, here's a thought. Here's my First Amendment right, you morons. You don't have my consent to put my information in there. So if it's in there, you got to get rid of it, or otherwise you are violating my consent. Take that. There's a thought. But of course, Clearview is like, hey, we want everybody. They said they will index. The company said that its index of faces has grown from 3 billion images to more than 10 billion since early 2020, and its data collection system now ingests 1.5 billion images a month, with $50 million from investors. See, every one of those investors need to have all of their assets stripped. Do you have no morals? Do you have no ethics? No. Just all of these guys. Everybody who thinks Clearview AI is a good idea, no. Strip them of their assets. Give them a pair of underwear and a pair of underwear and nickel and a shirt and drop them off in the middle of a city or something. That's what these people need. $50 million from investors. The company said it could bulk up its data collection powers to 100 billion photos, build new products, expand international sales team, and pay more toward lobbying government policymakers to develop favorable facial recognition. No. Every one of us needs to let your Congress people know this company needs shut down. I don't consent to any information in there, and it's a violation of any group that I put my information and likeness on for them to collect it. And so, yeah, at what point in time do we need to have a global class action lawsuit and every one of us gets to take a chunk of the company? That would be hilarious. But anyway, that's probably not going to happen. I'm just living in a fool's errand world, but hey, I can dream, can't I? Well, San Francisco linked a woman to a crime using DNA from her rape kit. Let me be clear, she didn't rape somebody. She was raped. She goes to the hospital. She has a rape kit done. Police run her DNA and match her to a crime that happened many years later. Now, sure, don't do crimes. I get it. Don't do crimes, okay? Guys, stop doing crimes. But at the same time, You go in because you're raped and your DNA is used against police databases looking for hot DNA on active crime scenes. Yeah, you want to talk about making things worse for women who don't want to now go in and report when they're raped? Yeah, these are problematic things. Of course, the DA is like, had no earthly idea this was happening. My Lord, we've dropped the charges. Yeah, all right. I had no idea, man. It was the brand new lab tech. Yeah. All right, we believe you. We believe you, Soros-funded district attorney. Here's a thought. Rather than scraping DNA from rape kits, what is this, San Francisco? Why don't you start by prosecuting the people that are looting the stores in your city and leaving piles of feces and drug needles all over your streets? That would be a better way to clean up the streets than mess with the woman who was raped a few years ago. I mean, really. But yeah, and he said, of course, we've dropped the charges because it was all there. Of course, civil lawyers are saying, yeah, this is actually a complete violation of the Fourth Amendment. But yeah, just so you're aware, if you're raped and you go to the hospital for a rape kit, that may end up using that DNA against you. Just so you know. And on to our feature story. Of course, with Microsoft Windows 11 Home Edition, generally it was understood you probably need a Microsoft account to set it up. There's still some finagly ways around it, like pulling out internet. In fact, even my friend's version, Windows 10, when it updated itself, it really is like, you need to have an account. And we walked him through over the phone. Okay, let's shut the computer down, pull it out of the internet, reboot the system. Okay, see if you can get by. Well, there were some code bases inside of the developer edition for Windows 11 that seems to suggest that now even the Windows 11 Pro version, you are going to have a Microsoft account to log in to the system. No more local accounts. That's what they're trying to do. Or at the very best, hey, you can kind of get in there, but you really can't really do much without actually giving it a Microsoft account. Of course, this is part of the fun task of logging and tracking everybody. Make sure the whole world has a Microsoft account. Hey, what's the best way we can get everybody's data? I got it. Let's just make sure that everybody's on Windows. Now, nobody even knows about any alternatives other than Mac, and just make sure that everybody out there happens now to require a Microsoft account to log into local Windows. Yeah, now, of course, they do suggest in the article, yeah, just because something shows up in the developer edition doesn't mean it's ever specifically rolled out. But I'm telling you, folks, this is a step towards dystopia. Resist. Hashtag resist. I don't see any reason why I would need to have a Windows computer around if they're going to force people to have a Microsoft account. No, this is problematic. Well, if you'd like to help support the channel, we have some affiliates today. We are highlighting ProWritingAid, tlm.li/PWA. This will get you 20% off a yearly or a lifetime subscription. Of course, the monthly, yearly, or lifetime will help support the channel. They do have some free services as well. Check out ProWritingAid.com. See what you can test around before you actually purchase. This is one of the tools that I use in writing to make sure I have some good grammar, writing, and such like that. But anyway, let's move on to security news. So first up in security news, a hacking group is on the tear. It hits U.S. critical infrastructures and the San Francisco 49ers. Apparently, guys, the San Francisco 49ers now qualifies as critical infrastructure because, I mean, everything else that this hacker group targeted was critical infrastructure. It's like critical infrastructure and the 49ers. I didn't actually really read much about this guy. Black Byte blog. Basically ransomware. Hey, we grabbed a bunch of stuff. Give us some money. I just thought it was hilarious. Infrastructure and a football team because, yeah. Russian hackers have obtained sensitive defense information technology by targeting U.S. contractors. So, yeah, the U.S. government might have things more secured. I doubt it, but they might. But with that being said, Russian hackers are going after the contractors because, of course, you know, the cheapest contractor gets the project. And yeah, leaky AWS buckets. I don't actually think it was on my list, but Give, Send, Go that was being used to support the truckers in Ottawa, well, before the Canadian government went completely insane Gestapo and Adolf mode. they actually also had all their data on an unsecured AWS bucket. So all these AWS buckets are all leaky. So if you donated to the Give, Send, Go campaign, you might get a call from some journalist trying to like stir up flames or something. Be like, so I see that you gave money. Tell me by 5 o'clock. Is this true? Just refer all those to Viva Fry. I would love to see him call them and have an interview with them. That would be great. But anyway, the Russian state hackers are going after the contractors rather than the government itself because, yeah, the contractors have all the information as well. They're just not as thinking about security as much because they're usually hiring people who are not necessarily the better at it. Because why wouldn't you do that? You can now run Windows 11 on your phone thanks to Android 13. And this guy not only ran Windows 11 on the Android 13, he also played Doom on it because, of course, you had to. The Windows version, he specifies. So what this actually has to do with is there's a new virtual system used for isolating different applications into boxes on the Pixel 6 with Android 13 development. And so this guy looked into how to get all this stuff running and figured out, hey, let's just make a few tweaks and modifications. And he ended up running his, he ended up getting Windows 11 installed on his Android phone. Said at first it was not all that good, but after a few tweaks, made some modifications, adjustments, and after doing that, it actually started running really well. Well enough that, of course, what else do you do on a hacked device but install Doom on it? So, thanks to the new virtualization inside the new version of Android and the Pixel 6, you can actually run Windows 11 on your phone if you want. That would be exciting. Of course, if you're going to do that, run Linux. Why would you run on Windows? Come on, man. This is like Linuxception. It's Linux running inside of Linux. You're like, what do you got on there? Arch, by the way. And on to our final story, yet another SIM swapping. This was actually not a SIM swapping, this was a SIM cloning. What this had to do with a bunch of guys went in, approached a small phone company and said, hey, here's thousands of dollars. Don't swap the SIMs, give us copies of the SIMs, because that allows you to intercept the SMS messages for two-factor authentication without actually alerting the person whose phone was cloned. A SIM swap, the old phone stops working, the new phone takes precedent. Somebody realizes when their phone stops working that they've been SIM swapped. But a SIM clone allows you to intercept all the 2FA without actually giving up the notification. And what they're going to do now is they're going to be sitting on the accounts waiting for somebody to log in and receive it. They could actually get in there and trigger it, but then the person might be suspicious when Google keeps on sending them random phone numbers for 2FA codes. But the authorities have busted it. This was up in Spain. And it had to do with bribing the employees. And this is why you want to be careful about using these. Even if the company has the best security, they have the best people, everybody has a price. This was just a simple, just simple crime. Hey, here's millions of dollars. Give us some SIM cards. Sure. Okay. And that's what happened. But they were busted. Crime was stopped. Good news, I guess. I hope. Maybe. Well, you can help support the channel over on Subscribestar, subscribestar.com. Switch to Linux if you'd like to jump on and help support the show. We do have the links down there to get on the supporters stream. And I'm actually have like 4 or 5 videos in the works right now. I have not had that much of a backlog before, but I'll get out some information soon. We might actually talk about how to do some really good free open source podcast software. Ooh, that'd be fun. But anyway, have a look over there, subscribestar.com/switched-to-Linux. Thanks for coming along, and we will see you next time. Thank you for watching this video from Switched to Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.